Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to the Daily Fan Racing live preview show. We are back to preview the Viva Las Vegas. That's right, it's been 3 weeks, but I'm back with my main man, my buddy, Ryan Larkin. Man, it's been a while. How have you been? How has the last 3 weeks been since we chatted?
Pretty boring. The on the NASCAR front, it's been awful, but I was sick for pretty much the entire break we had. So I was not feeling the best, not really accomplishing much. Just kind of trying to get over that. Last week it really kicked in, and then I finally started feeling good about Wednesday. So doing good now, feeling good. But how about you? How's your break been?
Break's been awesome, man. We're full-fledged into hunting season, so I've been out and getting in the woods and soaking in that fresh air, getting to see some deer. Putting a lot of time walking in the woods, so that's been fun. I was telling you before this, we got a new addition to my family. We got a new puppy in the household, a 9-month-old golden retriever. So that's been a fun last couple of days. Been some, obviously not sleeping a lot the last couple of nights, but yeah, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit about NASCAR, though. It's been, kind of I don't know. It's been kind of a few weeks. I feel like since we chatted, since Kansas, I don't know. Maybe it's like, I know we got the Xfinity race going on right now. Typically we're watching it, right? But I can't fucking figure out this CW bullshit. Like, I don't know. Everybody keeps saying like, oh, it's so easy to watch, but I can't watch it, man. I've tried to watch it every other way. So maybe it's the fact that I can't watch Xfinity. Maybe it's like all this, just the NASCAR bullshit we've been dealing with, maybe it's the schedule. But I was saying like 4 weeks to go in the season, we're getting ready to crown the champion, right? I should be getting amped up. And man, like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Like, what's wrong? You think the season is too long? Like, are we like maybe 6 races past where we should have cut off here?
So my first question, yes, I'm going to answer that. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
But are you going to blame your dog for your losing in DFS just like Denny blames his dog for sucking in the race car, or are you going to be a man about it?
Man, if can I retro blame my dog from my like last 3 years of losses, because maybe that'll work. But yeah, no, the dog gets no blame. Like I take all the blame for my own losses. But no, actually, you get all my loss blame now because you're giving me the advice.
That's fine. Yeah, I think part of it's just the schedule. The biggest thing for me here recently is that I've hated the schedule. You're doing. It was like a stretch of Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Bristol. Then we got a good Kansas race. Then it was Talladega and the Roval. Yeah, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, none of these races are enjoyable. I don't like these races. They're impossible to predict. There's just shenanigans and poor NASCAR calls. And every week, Elton Sawyer's looking like freaking Ned Flanders out there giving out stupid reasons for why NASCAR screwed up again. And it's just exhausting. Like at the end of the day, it's just exhausting. So if we were just having good races and we went to Kansas and then we went to Chicagoland and then we went to Vegas and then we did all these races and they're all good, nobody would care. But it just feels like every race is just exhausting. And so, yeah, I'm kind of burnt out to an extent, but I'm very excited for this race and next week. And I do think once we kind of get a good race under our belts, we'll feel better about everything and a little bit more excited for the championship run.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because this should be exciting, right? We're down to 8 drivers, right? We got 3 races to go to find out who's going to be racing. This is this playoff format that we want, that's supposed to build that intensity as the season. That's supposed to give you that feeling that you're hoping to get from other sports, but it just still, I don't know, man. It just still falls flat. Like, as much as I want it to be fun, but maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get some exciting, and like Kyle Larson will run into some water barrels or something and throw the whole playoff. But even then, it feels like things are just not like a real season. Like, yeah, it's exciting, but then it's like it jumps the shark almost to an extent. Right?
That's exactly it. NASCAR has jumped the shark. Like, imagine saying, okay, you're going to spend $25 million. Right, on racing with a race car and a driver. You're going to go through this whole season. Then we're going to re-rack it, and you're going to start by going to Watkins Glen and Atlanta and Talladega and the Roval. And it's just like, how can you crown anything remotely close to true champion? And I know like the best 8 guys got through, so to an extent, my complaint is null and void. Like it shouldn't, I'm just complaining to complain. But yeah, we're getting so far into the year. We're getting to tracks where it just feels like nothing matters. At least at this stage, we're in a good spot with these races. But yeah, it's just, man, really just standard races, shorten the season up a little bit. Back when they were making money hand over fist and people cared about NASCAR, that's one thing. I hate to say it, nobody really cares. It's not a very popular sport in the public.
Well, you don't need 36 races. You don't need to get into every single market now. Like it is, we're in the digital age. Like you can stream, like people can watch from all over. People watching F1 races at 3 a.m. from across the freaking country, right? You don't have to be.
It's a good sport.
No, but you don't have to be, and having your roots out and everywhere, right? I really think you can cut the schedule down to 26, 20, maybe 24 races. I don't know. You can cut a lot of the fluff out of the schedule, stack up a lot of mile and a half, since that's what it does, and keep the big, prestige, the crown jewels, the big races, make every race really matter. Then you don't need the playoffs because the points race is going to be tight in the 24. It's going to be tighter in a 24 race schedule. Every race means that much more because there's so less of them, right? Points are even more critical, and I think you get the excitement without having to throw in, a dash, a chase, a wheel that they spin that reverses things and flips the order that, I don't know what they're going to throw in 2 years. Who knows where it's going to go, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really understand. It's obviously a TV product. That's where all your money's made. So what? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed that will never be addressed. So
Kay's got a good point there. NASCAR, since they do own most of the tracks now, they get a lot of revenue from attendance, which does suck too, right? Because I don't know. I guess we need new owners. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, but
I'd buy it if I had any money at all.
All right, well let's get to why everybody is here. And if you are watching this show and it's this deep in this season and you've tuned in, you either really love NASCAR or you have a serious gambling problem. Either way, hit that like and subscribe button, right? So that way you never miss an episode. You are in the right spot, right? So like, subscribe, comment too, ask a question. If you got a question as we're going here, if you're watching live. All right, Larkin. So we are at Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. Another mile and a halfer. How does Vegas, last time we talked, it was a mile and a halfer. It was Kansas. How does Vegas differ from Kansas? And does our DFS approach differ as a result?
The biggest difference is going to be tire wear, not as important. And then they run a little bit more wide open here at Vegas. So it's just the way the track is kind of built, I guess you could say, lends itself to running a little bit closer to wide open. I think there were some guys in qualifying that ran completely wide open there. And that, I don't want to say kind of makes the racing not as good, but I feel like the Vegas races have not been as good as Kansas, some of those other tracks, because of that. It can get very much like a parade around Vegas because you either got the car that can run wide open or is close to wide open, and then if you don't, you just you can't really touch them, right? That off throttle time is brutal, and every half a second you're off the throttle is killing you overall on the lap. So there's definitely a big gap between the haves and have-nots. That's why you see HMS and JGR smashing here. And really the Larson / Byron dominance of the last three races here illustrates the difference in the two tracks the best, because they were absolutely dominated by those three drivers, or those two drivers, those three races were, and no one could really touch them. Whereas at Kansas, guys can show up, right? Guys like Chastain or Kyle Busch, or like the rest of the field was kind of in it. Vegas, it's just, you're not. If you don't have elite speed, you don't really touch whoever's up front. And so that's why we're able to see smashing dominator performances by guys like Larson, because having that slight edge on the field's even more exacerbated here.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the other thing about Vegas, at least what comes to mind with me, is Vegas is a track that, at least it tends to me, it doesn't tend to be a lot of chaos. There's not a lot of carnage. You get a lot of, long green flag runs. So like you said, field gets spread out. You don't have a lot of opportunity, I feel like, for the field to get flipped too much with pit strategy, obviously there will be guys at some point probably taking 2 tires, but I think, like you said, it's the fastest car typically, rises to the top. And I think this is a race tip for a mile and a half. I like to know totally spread out my ownership, right? Because there could be some variance. Is Vegas maybe a track that you hone in on some plays more typically than you maybe would have on a mile and a halfer?
Yeah, there very little variance here. It seems like you'll get maybe an incident or two, but nothing major. It doesn't seem like a track that really lends itself to that. And I really like playing, the best plays. I don't really shy away. I don't have as wide of a player pool because this track usually gets the best guys are getting the finish they deserve. The biggest thing with this particular track, I would say, is you don't know how it's going to race for drivers that have more downforce built in. So, like a guy in practice, you might not look good on single lap or 10 lap average or didn't qualify well, but in the race, they run a lot better because they have more downforce built in. And, that downforce is obviously when you're running wide open is going to slow your car down. But once you're 20, 25, 30 laps into a run, and the tires start wearing out and there is more off throttle time, that extra downforce can help you run better. So I do like playing into, the fastest cars. Like you just look at Larson and Bell and the guys that have qualified up front, they've gotten really good results, but there are going to be place for guys that maybe don't stand out on paper that are going to end up being good. Like a Tyler Reddick who, qualified 18th and finished second here in the spring, right? Ross Chastain started 20th, finished 4th. Some of those guys that just maybe have a little bit more downforce or a little bit better on long runs, like Danny Hamlin or something, might be a little bit better if their car has the speed.
Yeah. So, I agree with all that. And just so typically from, DFS standpoint, strategy wise, you're basically, oh no, but I was going to ask him a question, but basically, I feel like for we're a typical mile and a half strategy, right? Where we're going to go position differential plays, dominator plays, not getting too cute. I really think you're going to try to avoid those guys who are probably starting, in that 12th through 20th range, unless there may be a value play, which I know we'll talk about when we get to some value plays who may fall into that range, who may end up having a potential for a good score even from that range. But yeah, typically you're wanting those guys who are going to score a ton of position differential points and dominators, and those are going to be our main focus for today as we move forward. And he is back.
Oh, yes.
No, and you can go ahead and agree. Say yes, Jason, you're correct.
Yes, Jason, you're a genius.
Perfect. All right, so let's move on and start talking about some plays. Let's dive into it, right? We're only 12. I think this is the fastest we've gotten to the drivers, so this is awesome. We're blowing through this. This is good because I want to get out and do some hunting in the morning, so gonna have to get to bed. All right, so let's how do we want to do this? Let's just start from the top of the salary and work our way down, right? So start at the top, the man at the top, Kyle freaking Larson. He's, the best, been the fastest car all year, been optimal in 3 straight Las Vegas races. In those races, he started second, and 6th. Starts 5th today, right? I mean, Kyle Larson, is he the top of your board for dominator potential today?
Yeah, he's got to be everyone's top of the board. I feel like it's the issue with it is just he's going to be so chalky. I'm nervous about just being super high on someone who's going to be like 45-50% owned. But you look at practice speeds and he's just good. He had the best 15 lap average, tied with Elliott. He smashed here in spring. He won this race last year. This is a great track for them. You look at the fact that all the HMS cars are carrying speed this week, and it's really hard not to just go to that well again, right? Like you see Kyle Larson and what he's doing, it just feels like a play you need to hit. But there's still that threat from the Toyotas that has to be accounted for. So, I do think it's a race where Larson's the favorite. I think he's the main player, the top of the list. But Reddick and Bell and Hamlin all look good. I can definitely see a threat from those Toyotas as well. And that's really going to decide the slate is which driver or 2 drivers are able to get out front, lead 70, 80, 100 laps, and be the guy. And if someone literally just has lights out speed that's just better than the field, like Larson has had here in the past, he led 181 laps here in the spring. if he has that type of ability, he can just storm off with it. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I feel like the Toyotas are just a little bit better overall, so I think they're a little bit closer. But we'll see. This is the hard part about what we do, because it's really easy to say Larson, just like it was really easy to sit there and say Custer, and meanwhile, Justin Allgaier's got the best car in the Xfinity race, right? So you just never know. Sometimes that underdog, or not even an underdog, a contrarian option is the one that sneaks through and hits. So, but yeah, we're heavy on Larson.
Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously, Mono Hash, there's a lot of different guys that could pop up, but we're getting some of those other guys who could pop up as potential dominators. But just knowing that you are going to be spreading out some ownership to some of those other guys. So if Larson comes in at, let's say, let's say 55% owned in today's race, where would your ownership come in at on him in a, let's say, if you're playing a 20 max? Are you tending to lean into being really heavy and just like, I'm just going to play a shit ton of Larson and going 100% in the field, which in a 20 max you can be in the field, or you're just going to be like under, like what, how would you think you'd play?
Probably just going to match it. I mean,
match it, just play the field.
Match it. If you go too overweight, then you're trapped if he doesn't do it. And then if you go underweight and he smashes, then you're screwed too. Like, I just don't like being put.
Yeah, I know.
We
got to know what he's going to do when, and then overexpose ourselves there and
if I'm going to do anything, it's going overweight. Like,
okay.
Because it's going to hurt me less. Like, if I go underweight and he just crushes, you're.
That's a good answer. I like that. You would lean more overweight than underweight.
Yeah.
I like it. That's like that, guys. That's as close as it's going to get, guys. No, I'm just checking. All right, I'm just checking. All right, let's get to on down here. We talked about Toyotas, right? They looked fast in practice. I got to watch a little bit of practice today. They looked really fast. Looked fast in qualifying. We had 3 Toyotas were optimal here in the spring. So I guess I skipped William Byron, but we'll talk about him in just a minute. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick. How are we liking these guys here?
It's tough because, they've looked good in the past at times where you're like, oh, they're qualified first, second. They look really strong. And then they put up a mediocre performance. We talked about this, I think, with Kansas when, Bell has a bunch of, poles there. I'm worried that they just don't get enough fast laps or lead enough, especially if someone like Kyle Larson exists and goes out there and leads 180 laps. Reddick had 39 fast laps here in the spring, so a very, very fast car to go with that second place finish. That actually matched Larson's fast lap total pretty much. So, I do feel like, Reddick should be a contender. Bell finished second here to Larson as well, and was very fast in that race. So I think they've got enough speed and they have the ability to win here, but it's not like obvious threats, and you can't necessarily lean into it because they're hit or miss at times. Reddick is just very hit or miss. Bell's just very hit or miss. Sometimes they look great, sometimes they don't. And whereas Larson's just like, oh yeah, Larson's the guy. We don't necessarily always see that from Reddick and Bell. So bit nervous, but they do feel like top 5 guys and guys that should contend for the win.
How would you rank those guys? Bell, Reddick, Hamlin. Do you have a favorite of those 3?
Probably Reddick. I think Reddick's just better in general, but like it's not comfortable. I don't feel great saying that just because he's so hit or miss. There's weeks where he just looks bad, and so he's got a good average finish here. He's got good results, got good speed. Finished second here in string. Like everything checks the box with Tyler Reddick. 5 top 10s in his last 7 races. I feel good about him. I feel better about him than I do Bell. But it really just getting track position might be half the battle too. And so I don't want to write off Bell either, but I think Reddick's the main guy for me. I think he's going to be the most dangerous, but Denny Hamlin looked good on a long run. Hamlin always going to have good speed, 20, 25 laps into a run, and wouldn't be shocked to see him contending either.
Yeah, see, I mean, Hamlin is he's a tough one for me to get behind right now. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like he has the speed that he had earlier in the year. I feel like guys have passed him in speed. Larson, Bell, Reddick, maybe even. I mean, if you even look at like Vegas here, he's only been optimal in one next gen race so far, and that was obviously in the spring, but he had to start 28th to do that, right? So he starts
Mhm.
fourth today. Like, is he gonna be able to show up with the fast laps? I mean, obviously we know Toyota's gonna be fast, but is Bell and Reddick just gonna be faster? And also, I saw a stat that earlier today that Hamlin Hamlin and Byron has both went 20 plus races without a win. So that's kind of crazy stat. It's weird to think both those guys went that long without a win. So let's get to that guy then, William Byron. How do you like him coming in here? Is he above those Toyotas, or is he behind those Toyotas?
He's behind them. There's nothing to really love about William Byron.
Thank you. God, thank God, man. I thought for sure you were coming to tell me to play William Byron today. And I was like, God, man.
It's the same thing as always. You know he's probably going to run good. You know he's probably going to be like in the hunt, but he's just there. And until he does what Kyle Larson does, I don't really feel like playing him right now. But he's also finished top 3 in the last 3 races. He did have a decent amount of fast laps on lap slide at Kansas, so the current form's good. It's just, do you get the Dominator point? He's 10,800. That's a high price tag. So are you getting the Dominator points or no? I don't think you are. But if you're going to do it, you're probably pairing him with Larson and just assuming that HMS is clear of the field, and Byron's really, really good. Typically, though, when Byron smashes, it's because he starts top 2 or 3 and he's, has the fastest car going in the weekend. He qualified up front and then he goes and leads. I generally don't think of him as a guy who's like, okay, he's 9th, he's kind of in the mix, and then he outruns everybody. That's not typically what I expect from him.
Yeah, I mean that's a very valid point, because when you just look at him on paper, it looks like we should probably play him. Like, he's got the 3rd best start driver rating in the next gen era here, 2nd best average finish, right? 7th, but still like 7th and 10th in the last 2 races here. That's so what, right? 7th and 10th at this price is just not gonna cut it. But like you mentioned, with his starting position, starting 9th, he does have the 2nd best average starting position. So yeah, starting 9th could indicate that maybe he doesn't quite have what he's had there in the past. So Right now I have them ranked. Let me know if I'm right for you as far as Dominator potential: Larson, Reddick, Bell, Hamlin, Byron. I don't know. Do you have Bell, Hamlin? How do you have those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much Reddick, Bell, Hamlin, Byron. Okay. I mean, I'm definitely not in on Byron for this one.
Okay, I like it. All right, let's moving on. Any interest here in Joey Logano or Chase Elliott here?
Yeah, so Logano, not really. I don't think he's gonna have that, which is funny because he won this race like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, he should be the guy that would show up and just freaking win.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, AJ Allmendinger's out there leading and dominating this Xfinity race, and it's just like, I wonder if Joey Logano is going to do the same shit. I don't really have anything good to say about Logano. I don't want to play. I don't want to invest in it, but I'm sure I'll be wrong. He'll make me look stupid. Elliott interests me because I think he's a lot better than 18th. I think he's clearly a top 10 guy with top 5 upside. And so 9,500, if I can afford it, great. The issue is Blaney exists, and how do you justify playing Blaney and Elliott? That's most likely going to be difficult unless you're playing one Dominator lineups. So Elliott's probably going to kind of just get overshadowed by Blaney. He's not going to be someone that's going to see a ton of ownership, even though he should, because of the existence of Blaney. Now, if you can play both of them and Larson and get the big Dominator performance, and it works, or if you just straight up use Elliott as a pivot off of Blaney, that also works, because you could see 2 Dominators score 80 points each, plus Elliott could just outscore Blaney heads up, and that can make him the better play. So I think it's mainly Elliott to pivot off of Blaney, or if you can afford it in a 1 Dominator situation, you would do those 2 with 1 Dominator. But it's tricky because I think he's actually a really, really good play, but Blaney's probably just going to dwarf him.
Yeah. See, that's I'm interested. We got to poke into Chase Elliott a little bit more. Like, I can just I'm not playing a ton of lineups, so I just feel like I'm gonna probably have a lot more. I'm gonna probably have just a ton of Blaney, and I just looking at Chase Elliott here, it's gonna be hard for me to go Chase over Blaney. I mean, he just hasn't been that good here. When you talk about how good Byron has been here, right? How good Larson has been here, driving these, and even Bowman, which we will talk about in a little bit. Here we have Chase Elliott, who just Average starting position 17th, average finish 18th, driver rating 68, one top 10. I'm looking at his finishes here, not good. Like, I know he's been consistent all year, but just for some reason, is this just he should have had speed at some point with how fast his teammates have been, and it's just he doesn't have the speed they have either. Look at all them. Look where they're qualified, and he's sitting 18th.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be good. I don't know. It all comes down to salary, and that's about it. I do like him for cash, though. Like, if you just go Larson, Elliott, Blaney, I feel like that's a good, safe kind of group there, and you can maybe get what you need out of it.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about Mr. Ryan Blaney. I don't know how much we got to say about this play. This is very, very similar, right, to what we had at Kansas, right? We have a big name coming from the back. Then it was Chase Elliott starting 38th. Now we have Blaney starting 38th. But Blaney now is $700 cheaper than Chase. Is this just as much of a lock? Finishes of 3rd, 6th, and 13th in the last 3 here in Las Vegas. And we know Penske's a team that shows up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It feels like a trap to me, and it's very hard for me to kind of get around it. You know,
do you think Penske's just going to show up flat here in Las Vegas and just?
I don't know if it's about being flat, but it's more about the fact that there were no Fords in the top 13 of 10 lap averages in practices. You know, in practice, the speed within the 4 camp wasn't great. Yeah, Logano qualified up front, but you know, we've seen that from the Fords in the past where they'll qualify good here, but they won't necessarily race good here. I'm a bit worried that Blaney just gets to 18.
But who do you think has been the best on mile and a halfs in the Ford though this year?
Blaney,
and he's 9,300.
It's a backup car. We're not talking about.
It's playoffs though. They brought a real car for a backup. Like
they're all the fucking same, but it's still
I mean, it's playoffs. Those guys are working.
You got to get this set up. I don't know.
I ain't worried about the backup right now. I ain't worried.
You think he's just going to drive up there and finish 4th?
No, but
I will bet you $1 billion that I don't have. That he's not finishing 14th.
14th at 9,300. What does that give you? That gives you plenty, don't it?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm playing it, but like,
I get it. It's the same. I was on this side when we talked about Chase Elliott 3 weeks ago. I was doing what you're doing.
If we get, you know, a situation where he can.
It's a low car.
Top 15, I feel great about it. But I do think Elliott can just outscore him. You know, if Elliott's finishing 6th with 10 fast laps, that outscores Blaney. So I'm just a little worried about it. But yeah, it's a great play. You got to have it in cash. The upside's obviously good, but don't be shocked if he's just kind of not as good. Yeah. Don't be shocked if he's just 17.
All right, Blaney in the poor 4 coming at you.
No.
All right. This is when I get to victory lap you next week when Blaney's in the optimal and act like I'm a genius, even though it's like the most obvious play on the slate. So,
yeah.
All right, Martin Truex Jr. Guy. I mean, he's like it's been a few years, but he's been fast here. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I know he's in a Toyota, but he's retiring and he starts 12th and he's 9,000.
Yeah, I think when you look at Truex, Chastain, Gibbs, and Bowman, they're in that contrarian dominator area. Truex was good in practice. Toyotas are good. Truex is really good here, but it's tough to wrap your head around it. I think it's just a guy that you sprinkle in if you can afford it, or just to be completely different off of Blaney. Chastain showed really good practice speed, really good speed here in the past. Obviously, he's someone that I think would be a surprise. Hell, he just won right at Kansas, but really good speed here in the next gen era with this team. So I do think he's someone to contend with. He finished 4th in the spring, 5th this race last year, and then was 2nd and 3rd in the 2 races in 2022. So, very 4 top 5s and 5 races here. 8,800. It's not too expensive. He may end up being that last man into a lineup if you double punt properly, and he could be a guy that gives you, a good score, or he may just get out there and win like he did, at Kansas. They kind of tailed off on the intermediates. And they've come back. Like, they were elite that first year with the next gen. Then they kind of tailed off and kind of came back to reality. But the last, I'd say, 6 or so of these intermediates, they've kind of caught back up, it feels like. And Chastain's definitely in the mix there. Ty Gibbs was pretty strong here in the spring. The Toyotas have been good here, as we mentioned. So I feel like that's definitely a contender. He's just super hit or miss as well, so it's tough to truly trust him. But he was 5th with 13 fast laps in the spring and looked good. And then Bowman starting at the front.
Hold on, man. I didn't get to interject about Ross Chastain at all. I didn't get to give. I got stuff to say about Ross Chastain here, and we're just blowing by him.
Go ahead, filibuster.
All right. All right. Like, I personally I like Ross Chastain much more as that pivot off of Blaney than Chase Elliott, right? Because I think with Ross Chastain, you do get how you mentioned race winning upside, right? Where he can win. He does have, second best driver rating here, the best average finish here in the next gen era, 4 top 5s, right? I mean, he's been phenomenal here, right? Been optimal 3 out of 5 next gen races. That's tied for first with Kyle Larson, by the way, right? He started 10th. He was optimal when he started 10th, was 8,300. Today he starts 7th for 8,800. So, it's right around there. So, yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to pivot off Blaney to play Chastain. You could probably play both, right? But, yeah, love Ross Chastain. Just wanted to say that, man. I had that there to say about Ross. Now, talk about Alex Bowman. Awesome play, too.
I don't really want to play him, but
Oh, I thought you were going to say that.
No, the HMS cars are so quick here, though, and Bowman is good here. There was a point with the old car that Bowman was incredibly strong. He was going to win races here. He may not pop in terms of things like Larson, but I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. Hell, he does have a win here. What am I even talking about?
Yeah,
he won here in 2022, right? Don't be shocked if he's competitive. But because he starts 3rd, unless he's leading a chunk of the race, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah. And that I think that's the thing with him starting 3rd, because he has been optimal in 2 out of 5 next gen Las Vegas races. But in those races, he started 11th and he started 13th, and he was also a few $100s. Well, he is a few $100 cheaper here than in those races, but still starting 3rd. I feel like he's got to have a little position.
You're in a tight window.
I don't think he's going to be able to score fast laps with Larson, with the likes of Larson, Reddick, Bell, those guys. But stranger things have happened, and he's only 8,100, right? So not from bad. How are we doing with these RFK boys? You don't seem to like the Fords. So, I mean, is these guys going to provide enough upside starting 17th and 22nd today?
Well, this is a good example of the extra downforce maybe being a little bit more suited for long green flag runs. We've definitely seen that with these guys in the past, where they qualify kind of in this range and then end up with a good race. I want to throw Kyle Busch in here too, because we skipped him.
We
skipped
did
over him.
KB,
but he's starting 20th in that same range. He's also really good here, right? So we got 3 good plays. I think all have top 10 upside. They're probably more 11th to 15th place guys, but the upside is going to be inside the top 10. And I do think they are sneaky plays, to say the least. So while I'm not super, super high in them outright, I do think they're kind of starting slightly behind where they should finish. I think they're guys that probably only score about 33 points or something like that. The upside is pretty good. We saw that from Keselowski in this race last year. He started 24th or 21st and finished 4th. He also led 38 laps. They're always going to kind of have that upside, but it definitely feels like the Toyotas and HMS and the playoff guys are stretching it a little bit. Kyle Busch was 3rd in that race last year as well. So we've seen, he definitely has the ability. And I think
they've been fast recently. They've been on there.
Well, they got all the JGR notes now. So.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah, I don't know. I heard there was some drama, but I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit of drama there with Kyle Busch. But
let's sort through those guys here real quick. Let's rank them. How would you rank Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher?
To me, it's Busch, Keselowski, Buescher. I think it's very important to remember that Kyle Busch drove up to the lead and had 18 laps led and 14 fast laps here before having issues earlier in the year. So in this calendar year, in the race in March, he was actually really strong. And just because he didn't get the finish doesn't mean he wasn't very good. And starting 20th, I think he gives us a bunch of place differential upside, which is fantastic. And that's just a spot I really want to attack, honestly. If I can afford Kyle Busch, I'm going to get to him a decent amount on this slate, because I think he's very, very alive for a top 10, which would score at least 45 points probably.
Do you prefer to chase Elliott at 9,500, or would you rather just save the money and go down to Kyle Busch for 85?
That's a good question, honestly, because I'm indifferent on that. I probably would go with Elliott just because I feel like he's probably got a little bit more upside. But I mean, I can easily see, Kyle Busch getting it done there and outscoring him.
Let's I do want to quickly, before we move on to this next round of guys here, let's can you sort through this the group of Truex, Chastain, Gibbs, Bowman? Who is your favorite of those four?
Oh yeah, sorry, probably Gibbs.
Gibbs
for the price and how fast he was. I might go. Honestly, it could be Chastain.
How you going over Ross, man? Like, he just won on a mile.
Yeah, they're all honestly fine except for Bowman. Like, I think Truex, Chastain, and Gibbs are all fine.
Yeah, I know they're all fine. I'm trying to get you to give me a winner here. Not a winner, but
Are you trying to make me pick random winners in groups of four?
No,
Ross Chastain will win the group.
People like this. Helps
Is this on
people.
DraftKings, like Sportsbook? Are we?
This helps people. I'm trying to help people. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, Ross Chastain, Gibbs. Okay, good. See, they people have these questions when they're building lineups. They're like, oh, I wonder who I should have took here. Let me go back. Oh yeah, that's right. He would have took this guy. And then they get to say, man, you're so awesome, Larkin. You won me so much money. All right, let's go.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, it does. You don't say that. Yes, it does. It happens a lot. All right, let's go. This next group here, let's not Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe, Daniel Suarez. This person has like a guy who I think probably provides the highest upside in this range. Bubba Wallace. Do you agree?
Highest upside in what range?
In like this, like Keselowski, Buscher, Wallace, Briscoe, Suarez.
I don't have any love for Bubba at this point.
You don't, huh? Not in this race here.
What's he doing recently? I don't know. He was 17th at Kansas. He sucked there. I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't finish well here. Yeah, no, I'm looking at.
Yeah, not good at the track. No, I mean, so really, when you look at Busch, Keselowski, Buscher, Wallace, they all have top 10 upside. They all have the ability to score 50 points on the slate and round out line up nicely. The thing with Keselowski, Buscher, and Wallace is really good price points. Like 7,500 for Wallace is going to be affordable. I think you're probably going to get 34, 35 points at a high rate out of him. So it feels safe in that regard. Like I think he'll do all right, and he does have good upside. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good play. Just flat out, but
you talked me out of it. I don't know. You talked me out of it.
Track history is what worries me. His track history, his decision making in general worries me. He's not a guy that strikes confidence in me, but he is a guy that can definitely show up and have a good race, and he has top 10 ability. So like his car is capable of a top 10, so he's definitely in play.
Okay. Definitely in play. Yeah. Just more I'm looking at, the more I'm thinking I just might want to just stay out of this range altogether. But I don't know.
No, I'm going to hammer that range.
You think hammer the Kez, Buscher? Well, I don't know. I feel like when you play Blaney and then you play Larson, like I might just try to just hammer in another guy up top and just skip this range. I don't know. Well, let's see what the value looks like. We haven't got to the value. Maybe there's nobody down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to depend. Like, so I put Busch in because he's the most expensive. If you go Bell, Larson, Blaney, Busch, is 5,200 left over, so not great. Not great, but if you start pivoting off certain guys, if you don't go Larson, or if you get, there's a path, and if you play Wallace, who's $1,000 less than Busch, then you're left with 5,700 left, which is a pretty standard build. So like if Wallace, Keselowski, those guys are your, I don't want to say last guy in, but the last guy into your lineup before you're sacrificing with punts. I think they're guys that can score 50 points on a good day. And so, I do like that group. I wish Busch was a little bit cheaper because he would fall into that a little bit better. But I think those guys are fine.
All right. Did you talk? Okay. I don't think we talk Briscoe or Suarez yet. Let's did you
Briscoe and Suarez are like the Dollar General version of the guys we just talked about. Theoretically, they're fine plays if everything goes right, but it goes right so infrequently that you can't ever feel good about it. So I'm probably going to shy away from them for the most part. I think Briscoe
has a track history here, though. Like Suarez he's got 4 straight finishes inside the top 16. here. I mean, he looks to have speed in practice. I mean,
Daniel
we saw
Suarez, and
Chastain. I know, but this is a track that takes you literally put the friggin' pedal to the metal and you hold the wheel. Like this is track takes not Kansas. It takes no skill, and Trackhouse has speed, and that's why he's been able to be optimal here. Both Chastain and both Trackhouse drivers were optimal in this race last year, as a matter of fact. So there's that.
I don't disagree with you. It's just, God, he freaking sucks. But he was 13th at Kansas. You're right. Good track history, good past. I think he's obviously someone that I would consider as a contrarian play. It's just someone I don't trust. I just don't trust him. And so that makes it hard for me to play. But yeah, you're right. No, good play.
All right.
Probably a really sneaky play, and that 7,200 may actually open up some more salary. So that might be a beneficial side of it as well.
All right.
So Daniel Suarez.
So I know you had obviously Kez Buescher would be your top two guys in this range, right? So where would you rank Wallace, Brisco, Suarez? How would you rank those three behind Kez and Buescher?
Wallace, Suarez, Brisco.
Wallace, Suarez, Brisco. All right. We don't like Austin. Do we like Austin Cindric? Like, nope. I don't. This feels like I think we need position differential, right? Yeah, it's just not a play that's going to work out for that price. Okay, Noah Gragson. I mean, I don't. Do you trust these guys right now?
Great finish in the spring, but it definitely feels like Stewart Haas's. They don't have any more Ford technology, information coming in. They're definitely struggling for speed here the last few weeks. So I think Noah and Barry and Priest and that group's and really Brisco. I think they're just at a deficit compared to where they would normally be if they had the full backing of Ford and everything. But that's the problem with shutting down, right? Like you lose that information. Jones, not really interested in. The thing with those plays, Gregson, Jones, Barry, track position can matter, and if they can gain it and get a good finish, then they can have good days.
How are they going to gain it though? Like the
same way it happens any other time.
I know it just happens very infrequently here. I feel like, but it can happen, right? It can definitely happen.
Yeah.
You got to play him good. I mean, if you're playing, a ton of lineups, obviously.
I'm not. Yeah, if you're playing a lot, I don't really like them in general though.
Don't like Jones, Barry, SVG. We don't like any of these guys, right?
No. And the pricing kind of helps that too. Is like I don't really like. I'd rather spend my money on someone that's going to score me 90 points.
You're right.
So yeah, SVG not interested. Hostvar, I love them. Starting 6 is too high for me. I'm just not going to invest in that. McDowell, Dillon, Zane Smith all starting way too high to feel comfortable with. I do think Zane Smith.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Zane Smith and the speed that those Spire boys have shown. I mean, when you start looking at the value that we're about to talk about, like I think we got to consider Zane.
He started 15th and finished 10th at Kansas, and that's kind of what you're hoping for again. It's not implausible. It's definitely someone that's a little bit riskier, though. I think I'd prefer Stenhouse. But, that requires Stenhouse to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, and he's starting 25th too, and he will bury your lineup when he has trouble too. And and when you look at this range, I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to Ricky just because it's just a lot. Typically you don't feel good about starting, a value guy starting that high up, but I think there's opportunity to go after those Spire boys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have so much speed, and if it burns, I don't know. I think that's what I'm going to do. It might burn me, but I think I might just play into those plays because nobody else might. So you like Ricky there. Do you have a preference of Zane or Haley, or is it just whichever one you like the best? Who's your favorite name? I don't know. Seems about the same play.
My favorite punt play is probably honestly, I don't like any. Like if I'm being completely honest, I don't like anyone.
No, I was talking between Zane Smith and Haley is who I was talking about. But,
I'm probably. Ooh. It's tough to really know what Haley's going to do here because, it's his first real race with these guys. I probably lean Zane. Zane's just running really good. I think Zane's a better talent. So I'm going to lean Zane there.
Yeah, he looked really fast in practice too. So, all right.
I'm sorry. I just got really dizzy and like the room's spinning out of nowhere. So that's why I'm kind of like,
are you okay?
Out of it.
I'm not looking at you here. I'm looking at my stuff.
But
Okay. All right. Let's. You all right? You back in? You back with us?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm
All
good. I
right.
think.
So let's move it on. When you look at optimals over, at least the last handful of races here in the next gen era, we typically see 1 to 2 guys price 6K or lower, starting, in that 27th on back range, and it just looks so terrible this week. But seems like somebody's gonna make it. So who is it? Todd Gilliland is probably the guy everybody's gonna gravitate to, but is it somebody else, or is that who you like?
Yeah, I think honestly, Gillen, Priest, Hemrick even kind of fits the bill, although I'm not super ecstatic about how Colleague's speed is this week. Hemrick shows up and finishes 20th or 22nd. A lot, he's 5,100. So, I gave out that lineup where I played Busch with the 3 top guys at the, up top. Hemrick fit that build, and Hemrick's going to fit a lot of builds just for the sake of salary. LaJoy is going to fit a lot of builds just for the sake of salary. He's obviously not going to have as good of a car with the 50, with the 51 as he did with Spire, but he starts 35th. We saw Haley get some decent finishes with this team. If Corey LaJoy's 25th, scoring 25 points, hey, it might be enough. At 5,200. So I think LaJoy, Hemrick for just pure punts are okay. I think Priest is interesting, but I'm also very, very nervous about that because I don't think he's going to be good, but it works. He started 36th and finished 23rd in the first race here this year. That's kind of what you're hoping for, right? So none of them strike me with a lot of confidence, but they all have kind of the ability to work out.
Yeah, that's about how I feel. So you're the one who has got to actually, make a decision here for us. So we got Todd Gilliland as the favorite, right? So is it Priest? Is it LaJoy? Is it Hemrick? Who is the guy that you would put behind them? Do you would feel like you would just much rather go down there to LaJoy, Hemrick before you go to Priest, or?
I think Priest probably has more upside technically, so I'd probably go with him.
Okay. So Gilly Priest, and probably LaJoy, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay. And no love for John Hunter. You can't play those legacy motorsport bums anymore. Like, what a fucking disappointment those guys have been. Like, God, man, I thought they were gonna be good, Toyota, and then you got like John Hunter. Do you think he feels like the biggest idiot in the whole wide world? Like, why didn't he just stay with Front Row Motorsports? Like we thought he was gonna get this whole JGR bullshit, and now he's
he in the last 14 races, he's finished better than 25th twice. One of those was a 21st place finish at Watkins Glen, and the other was Daytona.
Yeah, he was in better equipment 3 years ago with FRM when he left the series.
I don't know how Legacy's so bad. That is the worst team in the whole series. It's an absolute shit show over there. And now they went and got Brian Campy. Okay. Good luck with that.
It's wild. And yeah, I heard something a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple months ago, but that they weren't taking any notes with them from JGR. They wanted to do it themselves.
They're not paying for the help. Like every single team has an affiliation and pays for setup help, except for them. Like that's asinine. Like it makes no sense. If you're gonna spend the money, and it whatever. Moving on. I don't want to get.
We got time. We're 48 minutes. We got time for a Larkin rant. Those are fun. People enjoy them.
Let's answer these couple of questions that we have in here. I saw a couple, and we can go with that. So, Elliott or Hamlin single entry. I think I'd go Hamlin just because he's going to have the dominator potential. He's going to have the ability to lead, 70 laps and win. Whereas I think Chase is more of a floor guy. So I do think I'm going to use Hamlin as like a contrarian dominator in single entry to kind of be a little bit different, like maybe off of Bell or even Larson, like just going straight off of Larson to Hamlin and saying that Toyota's got the advantage. You got anything on that? Or you?
No, that sounds fine.
That sounds fine.
Yeah. Sounds good.
How many Diecasts are in your collection, Jason?
Oh, I think I maybe have like 12 or 13.
Where are they all at?
In the attic.
Yeah, I'll take them off your hands. I got, I guess in terms of like full 124 scale, I think I got about 30. Most of those right now are my Legos. So like the top 4 rows are just Legos because I'm moving. And I was trying to think, I'm not going to take them apart. So what am I going to do with them? And then I figured I'll just put them in there and I put the diecast back in the boxes. So that's worked out pretty well, actually. They fit nicely and look really cool in there. So I actually might buy another case for my Lego cars. But yeah, about 30 of those. And then I have a bunch of F1 143 scale too. I like collecting them, but they cost too much money. So I kind of regret that.
Yeah, most of mine are older from back when I was collecting in my like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, like teenage years. These are like my adult ones I've collected since I became an adult. So punt plays under, is that what? Under what? Oh, 7K.
7K. Yeah, so I think for me, it's kind of what we talked about with I'm in on Stenhouse. I think Stenhouse, Priest, Gilliland, and then you're going to super pump most likely to LaJoy and Hemrick at some point. So those are probably the 5 that I care most about. Cool.
All right, got through them all. Good job. Thanks for answering those questions. I'm sure the people love it, enjoy it. Guys, if you've made it this far, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button because I think we'll be back on Homestead, all right, and next week. So, yeah, back-to-back shows this week. So like, subscribe so you can catch us next week. Let's round this all up for everybody. This is that part of the show where Larkin likes to make some stands for us, give us some direction, give us some plays. Give us our core 4, pour 4, and 4 more. Give us your core 4 plays, 4 guys that we can build our lineups around. That's going to carry our lineups. Some combination of these 4 guys are going to be in the optimal lineup on Sunday.
Larson, Blaney. Oh, shit.
He's not in Larson, the pool. He's in the pool.
Larson, Blaney, Bell, and Stenhouse.
Fuck, you are done, dude. You put Ricky Stenhouse in your core 4.
Dude, anything else I do is wrong, so it doesn't really matter.
I don't think, I honestly, I've spent a lot of years writing content, Larkin. I don't know if you know this. And I don't think that I ever have had Ricky Stenhouse work out in a core, ever. I just don't think it does. So good luck with that. Let's go. Pour 4 guys that we are definitely not going to play today. They are going to break lineups. They're going to bust a lot of people's hearts, and we're not going to be one of
them. Let's go Bowman. That's very risky because I think he has the potential to make me look stupid. Cindric, Shane Van Gisbergen, and someone up top. Joey Logano.
Slogano today or Sunday. All right, let's go 4 more. These are 4 more plays that are outside of those core 4. These could be those different makers. They might be some leverage plays, guys that might draw us a little less ownership. But, just, hey, you got to play 6, so you need 4 more plays outside of the core 4. So who are they?
Yeah, Reddick, Elliott, Busch. And let's go with your guy, Daniel Suarez.
Just for the record, when he inevitably blows up in your face, he's not my guy. You picked him. That's you. All right. Let's go. Yeah, that's good. We got core 4, Larson, Blaney, Bell, Stenhouse, pour 4, Bowman, Cindric, SVG, Joey Slogano, 4 more, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez. I like to get the Trackhouse love in there. So, all right, let's pick a winner. It is Las Vegas, right? So the winner is kind of important because they pay money for winners out there in Las Vegas. So give us a winner.
Larson, because I'm not stupid.
Kyle. Larson gets win number is, would that be number 7 or 4?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, Kyle Larson, the unstoppable force, the wrecking ball of the season. So, is he definitely like your favorite to win the championship 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out?
What's that?
Favorite to win the championship for you 4 weeks out? Is that the man Kyle Larson for you, or do you think somebody?
No, because Phoenix, I don't think he's going to be the best car. I think it's going to be a Toyota. So, yeah, he can be fantastic the next 3 weeks, and then it can probably just come down to, Hamlin, Bell, or Reddick, whoever's got the advantage, at Phoenix.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, he should be the favorite because he's been the best all year, but it's just not going to be the case because it's a one-race champion.
If it comes down to Hamlin, Bell, and Reddick at Phoenix, I think it's Bell who walks away with the title.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, everybody, we will see you guys next week for some action at Homestead. I love Homestead. You love Homestead, I'm sure. Homestead's always a fun race, and we get to see some wall riding and slide jobs. Are you watching the Xfinity race? Or
I'm watching UFC.
Oh yeah, fights on. Sorry guys, we'll let him get to watching his UFC. Thanks for watching, everyone. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you at? How to find the stuff?
Let's go. DailyFanRacing.com.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you
for
doing it again. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Yeah.